Well, welcome to the California Calexit Congress. 1 second, sorry. Just a second, sorry. There we go, a lot better. Welcome to the Yes California Calexit Congress. This is the official discussion of Yes California and the Calexit movement. If you'd like to join, we have the link out available for you. It's in the comments. Just click that link to join the discussion. We have talked to John Drake. We have also talked to Aaron Reverse, a Socialist Party candidate, and we're expecting Aaron Reverse, the Socialist Party candidate, to be here. In addition to John Drake, when they're both here, we'll have a discussion, go from there. Yeshua, hey, good afternoon. It's good to join us. That's awesome, man. If you want, we got a link. You don't have to, but you can join if you want. Up to you. Always good to see you, man. Well, while we're waiting for some guests, let me show you a couple things that we have. So I got this from Daniel recently on his Calexit movement Instagram page. I suggest you check that out. It's pretty good. This is what he sent me, so I just thought I'd play it here for the meeting.
Picture yourself. We already have that figured out. We're going to buy his and hers motorcycles and see America, excluding California. Picture yourself.
That's just
yourself. We already have that figured out. We're going to buy his and hers motorcycles and see America, excluding California.
So there's all sorts of these jokes. I told Daniel, watch for these jokes in American media where real Americans casually just talk about how California isn't part of America. I showed, there was drawing a blank, but there was a comedy show about a race car team with a very funny comedian. And he made the same joke about, California is not part of America. There's also the Tim Allen Last Man Standing sitcom where they made the same joke. And people maybe look at that and see that as, incidental. But why are all these jokes being made about one state? And why are they always about shows about real Americans from the middle of America? And why does it always end with they name California and then say, ooh, gross? This is a pattern. It's been a pattern for years. I informed Daniel about it, and then he immediately found this. So I found that interesting. The other thing that's interesting is if you are looking forward to midterms, well, the Guardian newspaper is now saying America's about to go into civil war. So I didn't say that. The British are saying these conditions are ripe for political violence. How close is the U.S. to civil war? Right before midterms? And they're saying it's super close and very likely, and they talk about different ways that it could happen. Political violence and the backward systems for electing Supreme Court justices and the president are also mentioned in here. So a little bit of fire right before midterms. Here's the British freaking out. They're not alone. Michael Malice obviously tweeted this recently from The Guardian. They're trying to normalize the idea of using force against those who want to peacefully leave Washington's rule. 2 years ago, the argument was that national divorce was a position only held by a tiny number of lunatics. Thankfully, the number of lunatics is exploding. Here's a little passage from the Guardian newspaper talking about how there's increasing support for the idea of both civil war and national divorce. Although those topics are opposite from each other, national divorce is a way to prevent civil war. So they're not the same. Some people in the media are trying to conflate them as the same. They absolutely are not. But you can see the discussion is heating up even without us involved. So here's the English newspaper saying conditions are ripe for a civil war. And then here's Michael Malice in our own California talking about how that could happen. Midterms are coming up, and I'd like to remind everybody of this map. This was the map in 2017 of how big the movement was. And we've always said that 1/3 of Californians still believe in the idea of Calexit. Surveys from Berkeley University, Stanford University, and Reuters Ipsos all showed about 1/3 of Californians were for full-blown secession in 2017. Now, we've said people left the organization, but they never left the idea. And so I find this map intriguing because I would say there's still 3.5 million people in San Francisco area who believe in Calexit. I would say there's still 3.8 million people in Los Angeles, 1.1 million people in San Diego, 500,000 in Orange County, 300,000 in Lancaster, 74,000 in Bakersfield, 500,000 in Fresno, 600,000 in Sacramento, 161,000 in Stockton, 500,000 in Mendocino. You can see we're talking about gigantic numbers. And we've said the market is still there. People were for Calexit. Nobody said they left the idea. They said they didn't want to necessarily be part of our organization because of rumor mills. And that's key. Because today, I was talking to one of our members, Silent Mike. And congrats to Silent Mike. He got back together with an ex-girlfriend. And she told him, you know, Silent Mike, I used to think you were crazy for talking about Calexit, but now I'm for it. Lifelong Californian, never part of the movement. Why is this woman who's never been part of the movement and thought it was a little bit weird suddenly saying, I get it and I agree? Why is that happening? Unless the market is still there. And the market was re-energized by Roe v. Wade. Things to think about. So we're looking at midterms. Midterms are going to go hardcore for Republicans. Democrats are going to freak out. The Republican Party is the party of Trump. And so Californians will have to face the reality that you thought you got rid of Trump's ideology in 2020. You didn't. It's still here. So Californians said in 2016 when Trump was elected that the aberration, the opposite of California values. In America, they, quotes, don't recognize. That's what the California legislature said, took over. Well, if Trump's party comes back into power in 2022, I guess that America that California's legislature didn't recognize is still the same America, right? It's the evil, wicked, bastardized, horrifying America in 2016. Look, it's 2022. It's the exact same America, and they're back in power. Just like we promised you. You were never going to get rid of these people because they're your fellow Americans. One of the statistics we often said in 2016 was that outside of California, Donald Trump won the popular vote. That's a fact. Hillary Clinton only won the popular vote in 2016 because of California. You exclude us, that means outside of California, over half of your fellow Americans in 2016 said Trump was a good guy. Then in 2020, Trump almost won. Biden won by 52%. Trump came in at 48%. That is not a drubbing at all. I mean, Trump almost got half the country. So it's not exactly over half, but it's just slightly under half of America outside of California still liked Donald Trump in 2020. Here we going to 2022, and the Trump party is going to take over yet again. We promised you that you were not going to get rid of this ideology. We promised you this was part of America. And we're going to be proven spectacularly right on midterms in about 48 hours. And one of the things I was talking with Jason about is that when it comes to pass that Republicans won and Californians freak out again about the state of America, the only group to predict that was us. Yes, California. We were the only group saying, you know, Trump's not going to be gone. This is permanently part of America. It's going to be back. You can't live with these people. You're going to have to secede. And we were the only people that the Trump ideology would stick around. And we would also say that Californians are also going to freak out when it comes back to pass. So Republicans take over midterms. Californians freak out after midterms. We were the only group in California predicting all that, period. And one of the things we like to do with predictions is say, if we're so crazy, how come we're making accurate political predictions when nobody else is? I mean, how come none of you could call it and just us called it right? Maybe because we're not crazy and we're seeing things you just don't want to see. Every time we call something and it comes out to be right and everybody else called it wrong, we win. Because there's really no other way to look at it. You know, oh, they just fluke managed to guess this correctly, or they're seeing things that are actually there. So we are the only group that's predicted that Trump's party will come back to power in 2022 and Californians will freak out and re-explore the idea of secession as they realize there is no other option and as the blanket, the security blanket, as I call it, that a foreign government rigged the elections, and they don't really need to come to a reality of facing fellow Americans, is gone. Everybody knows Donald Trump and the Russian government did not rig the election. They interfered, but they did not switch votes. Those were real Americans who voted for Trump. Yeah. Daniel Santoro says, congrats, Silent Mike. Good for you. So we're all happy that Silent Mike, ex-girlfriend, came back. But we're really happy that she told Silent Mike recently, I thought you were crazy for this, but now I'm starting to get it, because it proves what we've always talked about, a proof of market. That was it for my introduction. We are waiting for Socialist Party candidate Aaron Reverse to be here, and then we will talk to him about the Socialist Party. Any comments or questions from anybody? Okay. I'm a little bit out of material. We were going to talk about the Socialist Party. So I tell you what, we're going to give it another 5 minutes for Aaron to show up. If he does, great. If he doesn't, I'll end the show quick and we'll go from there. So just get ready for those midterms, folks, and get ready for, I don't know, things aren't coming back together. So yeah. Sorry, that's it. That's the end of the prepared material. Ordinarily, I'd end the show after I'm done with the prepared material. We said that we'd hang on. So we'll hang on a few more minutes, and we'll go from there. Any comments from anybody? Okay. If you get a chance, check out the Calexit documentary. It's really great. Good afternoon. Supply chain. It goes down to electricity, water pumps, and it gets ugly fast. E4. Yeah, I mean, if the power does go down. If the power does go down, yeah, it would get ugly fast. I completely agree. Fortunately, California, although it likes to purport itself to be a climate change sanctuary, pumps in a lot of electricity from coal and oil burning stations in Arizona and Texas. Jason, hey, how's it going, brother? Is there any updates you wanted to give? I gave a basic update about midterms are coming up. Yes, California predicts Republicans are going to be back in charge and Californians are going to freak out, and that, yes, California was the only organization to predict that. As you've repeatedly brought up to me, we need to highlight when we get predictions right. We were the only group saying the Trump ideology is permanently part of America. It's going to go nowhere. And Californians will eventually have to deal with that. And when they do, they will freak out and back Calexit. And we're expecting that to happen within the next 48 hours. So
yeah, no, that is all. Also, that was interesting to see. Silent Mike, your girlfriend, thought it was crazy, and now she's in for it. Or
how'd
now
that
she's
happen?
up for it.
I wasn't talking to her. You weren't talking to her. How'd she come to that idea?
Well, I guess Silent Mike maybe isn't so silent in his personal life. But yeah, no, it's good to hear things like that, because that right there is an example of an average, ordinary, everyday Californian who, you know, and like, honestly, until I got involved with Calexit, I wasn't for California independence, right? Like, until you're for it, you're not really there. And so here's yet another Californian who wasn't really there, and all of a sudden seeing everything, putting two and two together and saying, you know what, I'm there now. It sounds to me like average, ordinary, just everyday Californians are starting to wake up to the reality of what America has become. Even like, a lot of people think Joe Rogan's like right wing or whatever. Dude's actually pretty middle ground. Like he seems actually fairly like green mixed with libertarian or something.
Yeah.
Um, and he interviews people on the far left, on the far right, in the middle, slightly left, slightly right. Like he interviews everyone. And recently he even started putting it out there that America is failing its people. The government is basically, it's being run by a bunch of people who shouldn't be running it because they either don't know enough to run it or they're blatantly doing things like this. And if they're blatantly harming the people, that's actually kind of even worse than if they're just accidentally harming the people, right? So
Fair point. Fair point.
between that and like, I mean, the economy, a lot of people don't want to talk economics. Economics is a big, scary beast, I know. But ultimately, the economy of a country kind of reflects on how well people are doing or not. And so when the government, say, gets rid of, and I know these are two different presidents that this thing happened under. I will preface it with that. But when the federal government executive goes and removes the plans and protective measures for pandemic, and then sure, it was a different guy as the executive after him, but carried on with the same thing, carried on the same ineptitude, didn't go and reinstate that thing that was so just like absolutely direly important. Instead, decides to take all sorts of half-ass extreme measures that should not have been considered, at least not without the real plan in place. They screwed the economy, but not for themselves, just for the majority of the people. That leads the people to do lesser or worse, right? My $1 is not going anywhere near as far, and my rent's not $1,000 anymore. It's $2,000, but I'm still getting paid the same. Oh, okay. They passed a thing in Congress to allow for $3 more an hour. Well, that's great, but my rent doubled. You see where it goes? People are, it's like a snowball rolling down the hill, and every foot that it goes, it picks up more and more, and it starts to go faster. Now, we are the snowballs, and the little snowflakes and bits of ice that we're picking up are things we don't want. It's the tragedy, the misery, the mass shootings, the opioid crisis, and overdose deaths, the suicide rate, the veterans being homeless and left to die out on the streets, teachers being underpaid, children, having to go to school hungry and not be able to get food while at school, all of these things compound one another. You can't just solve one aspect of an issue. You have to look at the whole gemstone. You have to see every facet on it, and you have to address them all together accordingly. Now, this is some really tough work. It's a lot easier to say that than it is to actually do that, especially on a national level. But that is why it is imperative that we have the just most absolute best, smartest freaking people that we can running the thing. When we don't, when we get someone who's like going senile, or we get someone who's, too handsy with people's kids and then, goes and says a bunch of racist stuff and then decides he's going to finish the racist border wall that he himself called racist. Like it kind of screams dementia, right? Yeah. So we either get what we've got now because we don't have the best people running things and they're just running it into the ground because they're only taking a brief glimpse at the gemstone. Like they've got it in a dark box in a dark room, and someone turns on a flashlight over on the other side of the room for a second while they crack the box open and just take a quick peek. And then they say, oh, I know how I'm going to solve this. These people are inept. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know crap about what they're talking about. They have no plan. Their plan, pardon me, their plan is to have an idea, put it forth, and then see whether or not the American people go up in arms about it. That's not a plan. That's contingency based on the assumption that you've made an error. If you're assuming that what you are doing is making a serious error that the people are not going to like, you probably shouldn't do it, right, President Biden? But, ineptitude for you. So, Californians getting kind of the rawest end of the whole poo-covered stick. We're really able to see it, I think, a little bit more clearly than some of the rest of the country. I mean, we've run into people who are from red states that are very, very heavily subsidized by the federal government, thus by California, who just absolutely hate California, think California is stealing their money, and would love to see us go away because they think that they are paying for us when in reality we pay for them. It's like if you ever been to a fast food place in the drive-through and you pull up and they say, oh no, the person in front of you paid for it already.
Yeah.
Right? And this is like that, but then that person who just got their stuff paid for goes and tracks down the person who paid for it and is up in arms about it and saying, hey, you can't pay for my food. I get to pay for my food. I wanted to pay. Hey, okay. You really want to pay for it? Fine. I was trying to do something nice. If you really want to give me that money, I'm not going to say no. We could definitely use it, right? California's been getting bled dry for too long. But this is the equivalent of a person whose meal you just paid for coming at you saying them's fighting words. Get out of my house. I don't want you paying for my crap. And what, I mean, honestly, folks, what do we say to that? What do you say to that? What do you do? When someone is that irrational, do you really try to reason with them? You can lead an idiot to reason, but you can't make them think. That's my saying. I know it's you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But I find that my version is a little more appropriate for most of humanity. But that's the thing, folks, is we can't really rely on the rest of America needs to see this and wake up and maybe there's hope for fixing things. No. Abandon all hope. Leave it at the door. I know it's a crappy prospect, but really, just let it go. you you're sitting there crawling away from where the landmine just blew you in half and hoping that the medic will come and save you before you bleed out, forgetting that you'll never be able to walk again because your legs are strewn about the jungle. So,
wow.
give up the hope. Just give it up. Just drop it. Leave it. It's dead. Move on. Figure out what to do with the future. And not just for yourself, but, there's 40 million of us. How many of us are going to have kids and families and whatnot? How many of us are going to have more than one kid? Give it 20 to 40 years. This 40 million Californians will seem rather small. I envision some serious growth within California, namely once we achieve our independence, because the people will no longer be getting bled dry and can afford to start a family. And maybe systems and regulations have been re-evaluated and overhauled, and now it's more feasible to, say, go buy property with a house and start a family, work that 9 to 5, right? Yeshua. I know. I'm a very optimistic person, Yeshua. I feel it that, you always got to maintain some hope. I'm just saying, hope for America. Hope for America is going to be fixed. America is fixable. Maybe we could get someone elected who could figure things out. I've got it figured out. I'm not the smartest person on earth. I've got it figured out. And I know enough to know that what they've done to it, had someone like this caliber got in 2 or 3 decades ago, sure, it could have been fixed. It is long past the point of no return. Where it's at now, you could get the top 5 smartest people in the world who understand running nations in all of its aspects. You could get them all in there together to fix things, and they won't be able to, because it has been permanently broken. They picked up the glass and they shattered it on the floor. It's not just a chip out of the rim. And so, people waking up to it and seeing it, Breaking Points has, I think, been the only media type, outlet that I've seen that has even come close to talking about any of this. And here and there, they do put it out rather clearly of America is failing. America has failed the people. This is not America. If America was built to be A and what we're doing is Z, then this is not America. And, saying it like that, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? At least it seems that way. And then we have to remember how many people just don't know this. How many people are burying their heads in their sand because they just don't want to acknowledge it. No, I love America too much to admit that it's broken. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
If you really, really valued and loved America that much, you would admit that it's broken. By ignoring it and pretending that everything's fine, you're showing that you really don't care. If you really, really care about these values that we know to be American values, principles of democracy, democratic due process, the judicial system was originally designed to be pretty much the antithesis of what the King's Court was. The King's Court is what the king says goes, and you said 2 + 2 = 2, but the king is dumb and thinks it equals 22. So he's right, you're wrong, off with your head. because he's the king. And so the king's court, very flawed, has nothing to do with justice or truth. The court systems, as designed by John Adams, who was my favorite of the founders, it was really supposed to be absolute fairness and erring on the side of the people, not the court. Now what we have is the court is right, you are wrong. It's become the king's court all over again. You go into a courtroom and you see that flag hanging there with that gold frill around it, you are actually in the king's court. That's the admiralty law that you're under, which actually comes from when the colonies were still under the jurisdiction of the King of England. But, you know, America still likes it, so America still uses it. America loves to be able to say, I'm right, you're wrong, even though we know you're right and we're wrong. This border wall is racist, but now that I'm in, it's not racist. I'm going to be the guy to finish it, and don't you dare call me a racist. By the way, Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers.
He said Biden said he was going to take on the rapist Mexicans, and he got it passed. But then Donald Trump said Mexico brings rapists, and he was racist. So I'm struggling to see the difference, because as a Mexican, saying Mexico brings rapists or I'm going to take on rapist Mexicans sounds too close to me. I'm struggling to see the difference between Trump and Biden.
Well, and that's another one of our talking points that we've had for quite some time. Biden and Trump are the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the examples that I like to use to point this out to folks is how not President Joseph Biden, not Vice President Joseph Biden, but Senator Joseph Biden. When there was a vote coming up to desegregate, to end the segregation, the forcible separation within all parts of our society between peoples based solely on ethnicity and skin color, that whole heap of crap was about to be undone. And how did Biden vote for it? Oh, that's right. He said that he didn't want his children to grow up in a jungle. And so he voted against desegregation. Oh, but sure, this guy's not racist. He's always been. Always has been. So, folks, being that the majority of California either is in some part of Latino heritage or has a family member or a loved one or a really close friend who is, well, how much do you love those people? Whether it's yourself or someone that you know. How much do you love them? How much do you value them? How much do you care for them? Now that you've answered that for yourself, what would you do if tomorrow the federal government comes and takes that person based on their ethnicity, based on their skin color?
Backing you up, Jason. Here you go.
There's never been a president. Never been a president. Oh, it is a lie.
down those rapist Mexicans.
There you go. Sorry, Jason. I wanted to back you up. Like I struggle to see the difference between that and Trump. So someone can explain that better.
And like if you look, like he's getting that fervor, right? Now, what made Adolf Hitler so good at what he was doing was that he was able to, when giving these speeches, put the maximum amount of energy and emphasis so that people really, they don't just get a spoonful and that's some good soup. No, they pick up the whole darn pot right off the stove and just dump it on themselves. Oh, this is amazing stew. Ah.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing there. I've taken political science and debate and all of that. Like, there is only one reason. Well, no, there are two reasons. There are two reasons why people get extra emphatic while they are in the middle of a speech. One, the most common, is because it's a blatant thing. The other is the subconscious. That's because they really feel that heated about this thing. So either President Joseph Biden really thinks that Mexicans are all a bunch of rapists, and he is pissed about it, and he's going to take on those rapist Mexicans. Or the more likely, the more plausible, the much more common, is that he was doing that specifically to rile people up. Just like Hitler did when riling people up to hate people of Jewish heritage. These folks are basically Nazis, the left and the right. Wake up, folks. Even Adolf Hitler said, look to America as the next bastion for National Socialism fascists. You know, Nazis. Because they're not really socialists. They're fascist, but they call themselves socialist, right? And that's the other thing. You put up a label that the people want, and you sell that to them. And once you're in power, it doesn't matter that that's not what you were. Just like Joseph Biden. Hey, I am the return to decency. That racist border wall will not be finished. In fact, we're going to tear it down. And then once he gets into power, what is it? Those rapist Mexicans, we got to finish this great, amazing border wall that my best buddy ever in the whole wide world started. Really, these folks are just a bunch of Nazis.
If I could back you up one more, Jason.
Yeah, go for it.
Here's decent America. Remember, because Trump came and then Joe Biden says, I'm decent America. So decent America says you can build the border wall, and decent America says you can call Mexicans rapists. That's what I saw. Decent America. He's saying it. Nobody's criticizing him. So I guess that's totally cool. But my favorite was this. And I wanted to take time to condemn this. Joe Biden said, think behind all of that. I bet you 85% of those changes, whether it's in Hollywood or social media, are a consequence of Jewish leaders in the industry. The influence is immense. And I'd add it's all to the good. So what happened was Joe Biden in May 2013, well, he said it a while back. He said, basically, Jews control the media. So I was always told that that was racist and anti-Semitic and discriminatory and what the Nazis did. Come to find out, when Joe Biden does it, it's cool. They didn't criticize him, by the way. They didn't criticize him. They didn't say it was anti-Semitic. They said it was proto-Semitic, some new word I'd never heard before. So apparently you can say that Jews run the media, and you can say Mexicans are all rapists, and you're the good, decent America. So think about that for a second. The good, decent America can say Mexicans are rapists and Jews run the media. Think about that.
Well, and to draw an even further clearer comparison here, Adolf Hitler convinced the people of Germany that the Jews, air quotes there, right? The Jews all ran the banks and the banking system, and therefore all monetary problems were due to the Jews. Now, here's Biden at a point in time where misinformation, election misinformation, media right and wrong doing, right? The media branch of our society right now is totally FUBAR and has been for a while, and we're only just kind of coming around to realizing it for the most part. And so here's this dude right before midterms where they're set up to lose, which we can know they're going to say Russia, 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 and we won, they lost, but really, you know, they rigged the election so that they won. You know, and the media is feeding out false information, and the media is helping to push this false narrative that we're going to lose. It has nothing to do with the fact that we suck and we're inept and we don't know shit, or pardon my French, we don't know merde. See what I did there? But like, really, here he is saying the Jews control the media at a point in time where the media is kind of being viewed as like the thing that's screwing the people because they're preventing us from like knowing the truth about things. They're just a bunch of Nazis, folks. I don't know how many times I need to say this.
Yeah. Just got an update from Daniel. Daniel, thanks for talking to him. Aaron Ravelas is not going to be coming to the meeting today. So we will not be having a conversation on socialism today. Maybe next week. So, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap it up. What are the thoughts you want people to know? What is important? Is there any messages you have for midterms? What are the key concepts you think people should take away? It's your show, bro.
Yeah. So as many of you may know, I have been in the process of like moving my life up here to Oregon because it's like literally half the price. Like, I got no qualms admitting I am a cigarette smoker. I know how very anti-Californian, except a lot of California does smoke.
That's true. That's true.
And like, you know, our gun population is like roughly 3.5 times higher than our human population. It's California. I mean, we have California values, but we are still California. Like, I'm not sure how exactly to put this, but like, we really do have our cake and eat it too, and it's good cake and we enjoy it, but we also like to share it with our neighbors, you know, because it's California. So we've got our guns, we've got our healthcare, we've got our gun control, but we've still got our guns. We've got our pricing and we've got our taxes and, well, okay, so maybe that's the part that's out of control. So I've been moving up here to Oregon. I'm up here currently. It's been snowing today. I'm up here mainly because of I can't afford to live even out on the streets as a homeless person in California. It's far too expensive. I'm not getting paid by Vladimir Putin, contrary to what Rachel Maddow would have you believe. I don't get bazillions of rubles a year to, you know, like, if I don't make something for myself, I don't have it. And so I was living out on the streets as a homeless person for the last several years in California, while also working my butt off to try to help further Calexit. I'm still committed to Calexit. I'm still the head of Calexit, and I had to move from California because it's that freaking outrageous. So I bring this up to say that, one, there is a huge problem within our California as we know it. A huge problem with regulation. I like regulations. Regulations, like, they mandate that something be at least so good and not break the moment that you look at it. But what we've got now is what's known as over regulation, where some regulations are there and good, but a lot of the regulation is actually preventing the progress. A lot of these regulations are really hindering our entire society in every aspect. And then what do? Well, we're California, so we're one of the wealthiest places in the entire world. And even if we don't have the money on us, we always generate more. So sure, we can vote for higher taxes on ourselves to try to pay for this thing. And then what happens? The federal government says, hey, great. So now that you're making a little bit more money, we want that too. And then what we just taxed ourselves for so that we can, fix things, it's basically just going to feed the rich corporate fat cat sellouts. And there are people who don't have 2 pennies to rub together. Why are we continuing on this path that just gives more money to the people with the most money? I'm not against people having money. I'm not against people saving up money and making up enough money that they're wealthy, right? I am against usury. And for all of you Americans who are like, America is founded under God, it's a Christian nation, which it's not and it wasn't, but for those of you who are under that impression, just remember the one time Jesus of Nazareth ever actually got violent. Yes, Jesus got violent, and there is record of it in the Bible. And if you read the Bible ever, you would know this, because this is one of the biggest actions Jesus the Nazarene ever took according to the Bible. He went into the temple and he saw the Pharisees being money changers, right? Oh, someone's got $1 and they're going to give, half of what they've got to the church, to the temple. And so they have to go and see the Pharisees, the money changers, to get, 2 50-cent pieces or something so that they can give one over to the church and they still have what they need for themselves. Except that the money changers were charging for their service, which I'm not against charging for the service. And I don't think Jesus was really either. What he was against was these people are trying to do good, and here you are practicing usury to just try to benefit your pocket. It's not evil per se, it's just wickedness. It's like, you're not the devil, you're just a crap human being. And Jesus went and grabbed the head of the money changers by the back of the neck, by the scruff of his neck, grabbed him, dragged him out of the temple and threw him, cast him upon the temple steps, grabs a grown man by the back of his neck, drags him out of the church, and throws him out on the church's front steps, and berates him, chastises him, and tells him what a horrible person he is. If you're really that Christian, you need to see what America's doing. You need to see very clearly that America is the head Pharisee. And you need to maybe not necessarily grabbed by the back of the neck, cast it out, just vote it out. Vote for independence. Vote to be no longer held down by their usury, so that we really can do better. Jesus said, "Suffer the children to come unto me. Let them come to me." And, you know, if you're really that Christian, think about what this usury is doing to the children currently, and also think about what the future will hold for those children and those children's children. Does that sound like Jesus would be happy to see you sitting on your hands doing nothing? Or does it maybe sound a little more like Jesus would say, "What are you doing? Get off your butt and make the change. Be the change that you wish to see. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you and yours." So, again, America was not founded as a Christian nation. America was not built by God. Even still, if you are a Christian and you feel Christian values, then you need to wake up and realize the hypocrisy of all of this. For your own Christian soul's sake, at the very least. Now, away from religion, I will go back to the dreaded economics, because that's what got me on the kick of talking about having to move up here to Oregon anyway. Now, up here in Oregon, there's no sales tax. Like, you buy something for $10 in California, you are more than likely paying $15 to take that thing out of the store. Up here, when it says it's $3.95, you pay $3.95. But you know, it's interesting. So there are things they have to do without, and things that one might think that they would have to do without because you don't have that revenue coming in, that they still have it. You know, help with housing for people who need it, decent medical for the most part. The cops up here aren't insane, by the way. Like, I have had several interactions with police officers here, and not one of them was any bit remotely hostile. Those of you who know me well will know that I was the victim of police brutality in the Bay Area. It's why I'm no longer a chef. That's why I'm now full-time in politics. So hey, you know, Biden, if you didn't like Calexit and you think that Calexit doing well is, you know, a stain on your career, you should go berate those police officers who brutalized me and secured my 100% staunch, fervorous stance of being pro-California independence and anti-American federal government boot of oppression. Because really, like, had they not done that, I would be living in Finland working as a head chef of a, you know, 3 Michelin star restaurant over there. So, like, really, It's kind of a saving grace that the cops did that, right? But what I'm trying to point out is that down in California, beloved California, there is a problem where there is a severe lack of accountability on all levels. There was a young man named Brock Turner who went and was caught literally in the act of raping a young woman who he had drugged so that he could rape her. Caught in the act. Proof abounded. And the judge, even though the kid was found guilty, the judge decided that he couldn't really take it out on this kid and throw the book at him, and because he doesn't want to ruin this young man's life. Doesn't want to ruin the life of a freaking monster. I mean, so the thing is, judges, cops, a lot of the times professors, elected officials, all across the board, all the different levels, they don't really have the accountability that we would really prefer them to have. And now some people maybe aren't on that kick yet, so let me explain it, and then you will be. So why I say that we would prefer them to have this level of accountability. Because what they're at now is not absolute zero, but it's next to. And so when an upstanding citizen with no criminal record who is a deacon, for those of you who aren't religious folk, that means I am a spiritual beacon, a shining example for my spiritual community of like how to be. And the cops did this to me, right? They left me pretty much permanently crippled. It's been years. I'm still using walking aids. My leg hurts all day, every day. Like they broke my body. Those officers are still police officers in San Rafael, in Marin County, to this day. They were never reprimanded. They were never charged for their crimes, because that is what they committed. They committed several civil and federal level crimes. There is no accountability. Could I sue them? Sure. If there was a lawyer in the world who had the ability to take them on and actually decided, yes, I will take this on. No one wants to, because they don't have to really be accountable to the people. They only have to be accountable to their boss, and their boss already said they didn't screw up. So, what court case is there? You see where this goes, folks? Zero accountability means you, I, your children, my children, your aunt and uncle, my aunt and uncle, all of our aunts and uncles and grandparents and grandkids, we are all screwed. One by one, they will beat us, bloody us, bludgeon us, trample us down, whether it's economically, physically, legally, through education or lack thereof, whether it's withholding of resources or over allotment of resource. Oh, gee, we've got $100 million for PPE to keep people safe from this dreaded coronavirus going around, and we're going to then give it mostly just to people who could afford to buy the whole damn company. And we're just going to give it to them to keep them protected, rather than give it to the people who could never afford to go and get this so that they will be safe. No, we're going to over-allot the PPE to the people who could buy the company, and we're going to leave the unprotected ass out in the cold, so to speak. Again, pardon the profanity. Without accountability, things like this happen, and there is nothing that can be done about it. America doesn't like accountability. If America liked accountability, it would have to be okay with, getting called genocidal maniac, having to pay reparations to pretty much anyone in America who is not 100% white. And like, I'm really white. Like, if you ever meet me in person, I'm nearly glow in the dark milk white. I do also have Cherokee though, and not just not the typical 0.001%, oh, look at me, I'm a native. I'm actually a considerable portion Cherokee. Enough so that I could go and get benefits of some kind if, I recognize that as a person who is fairly day-glow white, I've got a much easier time of getting benefits and such, and so I actively choose to not go seek tribal benefits because there are people who don't have my skin tone and thus ease of navigation of the resources and the systems. They could really use it, right? Like, I won't go and take from that pool because, yeah, I could access it, but not everyone that can access that can access these other pools that I'm also able to access, if that makes sense. It's kind of a, social responsibility type thing, which, again, America doesn't like that. The way America operates is you get yours. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And, if you're into cannibalism, then okay, woohoo, America. I, however, am not. I am not into the detrimentalization of people, whether they are of the Cherokee Nation or not, whether they are fellow Dayglow white folk or not. It doesn't matter. Whether they're Californians or not. I mean, I'm one of those rare people that, like, I love Texans. I know there are tons of Texans who hate Californians without ever meeting them, who, like, if they met me, they might be like, oh, that California hat, get back to where you're from. And, I still love those folks. I got family from Texas. I got family from all over, right? But that's not why I love Texans. I just got love for everyone. As long as you're not, like, an absolute terrible piece of crap as a human being. Biden, Trump, Pelosi, Newsom. Wow, sorry. It's that thing that's going around lately called midterms. I must have caught that midterm bug. So, where there is no accountability, resources dry up. The resources that are needed to keep people alive, or at least doing somewhat well. Those resources dry up. They dry up because overallotment, lack of care, myriad different reasons. This drives people to then go and do what they need to do to survive, which usually means, given over-regulations and whatnot, probably going to break a rule or two here or there in order to survive. And then, when, you could be getting away just fine, breaking a couple of rules, maybe nothing too bad, and, someone else is out there doing it too. Many other people are out there doing it too. But because of the color of your skin, once they find out that you're doing it, well, you've broken rules, therefore, we're going to throw the book at you. We're not caring about any of these other people doing it because there are people. Well, there's another example of lack of full accountability. The judicial system knows no race, knows no color, knows no creed or ethnicity, knows nothing other than what is legally right and what is legally wrong. That's all. Yet, we've got judges who take it upon themselves to let a convicted rapist go with, barely a slap on the wrist. And, they regularly do not seem to care, right? So they, the powers that be, they've been the powers that be for a while. And, Joe Biden wasn't the president forever, but he's been in the government for a very long time. He's been a federal government employee and elected official for a very long time. So he has to have known that there are a lot of people who are not white here in the United States of America, right? And so, he goes and says some stuff to make these folks who aren't white a little bit happier and maybe feel like they want to vote for him because maybe he will be a return to some semblance of decency. Only to get him in power just to find out that, dude is racist AF and kind of always has been and straight up lied to the American people in order to get elected, which is, you lie to a police officer or a judge, you see how many years you will do behind bars. This man runs for president of the United States of mother freaking America, lies to all of our faces, gets not even a slap on there, gets commended, gets kudos for being him. America does not like accountability. America regularly goes against the grain of accountability. Big banks, overinvested into very risky things when, the whole global trade was shut down for a week or two after 9/11. Much like the pandemic, like the pandemic shutdown of the economy, really, they should have looked at 9/11. And they would have seen very clearly, oh, maybe we should not do this because it's going to be detrimental. But no, ineptitude abounds. Or maybe they did it intentionally. I don't know. I wasn't there. But it might be an interesting thing to look into. So they should have looked at that because it would have provided a clear example. Because after 9/11, people's banks were being emptied out, people's money being devalued, people's property devalued. Your stocks are considered property, devalued. Basically, your whole life that you'd built as an American, as an average American at that point, had just been totally shattered. And the federal government decides that instead of making sure that the people who are the workforce and taxpayers, instead of making sure that they do not suffer and die, and thereby no longer work, no longer pay taxes, because those are two things you don't do when you're dead, folks. Well, rather than kind of, ensure that there will be some sort of, you know, regular, viable, steady stream coming. No, they decide that what we've got, we're just going to give it over to these few super large banks that really just kind of screwed up anyway. We're going to bail out these banks instead of the people, and we'll just hope that the banks do the right thing. And the banks turn around and say, okay, people, since we just got bailed out, we now have to pay back all of this bailout money, which means we're charging you all more interest. We're giving you less on your, when you put the money in the bank and they hold it and they use it and do whatnot, right? They're supposed to pay you some like 1/1000th of a penny or something per year, I think it is. Uh, they get to make money and hold your money and use your money at will and charge you for it. And then they're going to rack up the prices on everything unless it's something that would make you money. That drops. Anything that makes them money skyrockets. And this is all because the federal government bailed them out. Rather than, gee, thanks for bailing us out, federal government. Since you did that, and it means that you can't bail out the people, we'll be the bailout the people for you. That would have been the right and really the good business practice, the smart thing to do. Because it would have ensured that there was a continuance of profit and prosperity. Instead, zero accountability. Because what? Did the federal government care? Did the federal government tell the banks that they have to do certain things that are pro the people that might potentially slightly cut into those banks' profit margins? Yeah, actually, I think they did tell them something, but it was more of a suggestion. And when the banks said no, that was kind of it. Banks be banking, haters be hating, cheaters be cheating, liars be lying, Bidens be Bidening, Trumpers be trumping, Pelosi's be Pelosin. This is what they do, folks. They're just a bunch of freaking Nazis trying to, well, I guess, trying to just cull the population. I mean, really, like, what else is happening? People are dying in varying ways, either by their own hand or by others, right? In record numbers, really. Like, ever since the pandemic, suicide's gone up, skyrocket. Overdose, gone up, skyrocket. Gun-related violent crime, skyrocket. Home burglaries and business, breaking into businesses, right, type burglaries, skyrocketing. Even in California, we've been seeing more gun violence and robbery and all of this, even in our beloved California. Folks, if it's this bad in California, can you imagine what it's like in somewhere like, I don't know, Flint, Michigan, or say some of these other areas that are highly neglected by the federal government as well as by their own local governance? I mean, there are just so many places around America I can't even think right now. Like, my brain is just flooding with too many names. America does not like accountability. America does not care. America does not care unless you are money. If you are money, America will care enough to grab you up and put you in its pocket. That's it. Don't expect any more care from them. That is the limit of their care. Their one and only concern, stuffing their pockets with more dollars. They don't even care how much or little that dollar is worth, as evidenced by the overprinting, right? Overallotment. Overprinting, overallotting leads the thing to being worth less. That means you need more of it to go get what you need. Going back over to World War II times, World War I, World War II, at the end of World War I, Germany's economy was so screwed. One day you would need one wheelbarrow full of these Deutschmarks to go and, buy a loaf of bread. And then the next day you would need two. And then the next day you would need 4 wheelbarrows full of Deutschmarks to get one loaf of bread. It's exponentially getting out of control, much like Germany's economy did after World War I, which led to people being able to go stand up in front of a podium, get all fervent in their speech, rile people up about those rapist Mexicans, and then the crowd cheers for him. Folks, if you can't draw the comparison between the post-World War I through World War II Nazis and today's modern America, well then go pick up several history books, go read up on who Adolf Hitler was. I mean, he actually was fairly intelligent, and that's what made him so dangerous. Both Trump and Biden pale in comparison to Hitler on the intellect level, which I think is our saving grace. Hitler knew what he wanted and knew how to go about getting it done, and that's why things got the way that they did. Our saving grace as non-Trumpers, our saving grace with Trump was that he didn't know how to get these things done. And so he couldn't. But, when he gets back into office, I guarantee you that's not going to be the case. So, do we want to wait around and let it get more and more Nazi? Let World War II, or in this case more like Civil War II, really truly unfold at our feet and explode in our faces? Or do we maybe want to pursue something fairly reasonable, fairly sane, pretty damn well thought out, if I may say so myself? I'm not the only person that's been involved in thinking this whole thing out, and so really, I'm not just giving kudos to myself. It's to Marcus, it's to everyone who's been involved this whole time, who has been helping to further, not work against CNP, but those who have been helping to further Calexit, those who have been working for it, right? We all get kudos because we are the sane and reasonable and rational people. We are the French resistance. We are the ones who are trying to save 40 million people from the second rise of the frickin' Nazis. They're already in power. They've been in power for a while. They're just consolidating all of their power to the point where no one can say or do anything at all. And we are either going to stick around and let them finish and sit on our hands and live that life, and we're all going to have to learn how to goose step and which arm to put that armband on, what symbols mean what. Oh, this person's a that person's a this. We're either going to get in line with that, which I think most of us Californians would not really readily be able to do, or we can pursue the one viable, reasonable, legal option that we have. We can Calexit, or we can go ahead and say, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. I guess Heil Trumpler it is.
Okay.
Yes, my human suit.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, I'm some like artificial robo intelligent being that was made by Vladimir Putin by his own hands.
Okay.
And,
I don't want
I'm just joking.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
all know I'm a human being. I'm flawed. I'm not perfect.
So last minute comments and then we'll close out the show.
Yeah. I would say practice the sanity, practice the reasonability. It's easy to divide, to separate. That helps them to conquer, though. It doesn't help us to conquer. It helps them to conquer if we separate and divide, right? So, as Californians, sure, there are Californians who are in the middle ground. There are Californians who are green. There are Californians who are libertarian. There are Californians who are Republicans. There are Californians across the entire political spectrum, folks. Don't forget that those people who hold slightly different views from yourself, yet live next door to you, are still your neighbors, your fellow Californians. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, if we Calexit or not, we are all in this together. If we Calexit, we are in this together as Californians. If we don't Calexit, we are all stuck in this trash heap while it burns together.
Good point.
So, as much as I'm not a fan of Trump, I do readily admit, hey, Republicans do know a thing or two about cutting back on unnecessary taxes, which, as a Californian who had to leave California due to too high of taxes and can't even afford to live as a homeless person in my state of birth, well, I kind of have to agree that there are too many unfettered taxes. Am I totally anti-tax at all? No. I just, I like sanity. And really, California under the federal boot has become insanity. It is the house of insanity. So either we're going to do this together, or we are all going to burn alive in a trash fire together. Either way, we're doing this together. So we can go and make enemies out of our neighbors because maybe they disagree on one or two or several different things. Or we can remind ourselves that we are all Californians. We are all brothers and sisters metaphorically, right? We're in this together. And then what we need to do is just be committed to be in it to win it. Don't get half-ass about Calexit. Get hardcore. There are tons of folks out there who want Calexit now, who wanted Calexit to happen years ago. I'm one of the many, one of the millions. Folks, there are millions of us. If you are one of those people who was saying, Calexit now, know that you are one of a few million people. Not a few people. There are millions of us.
Right on.
And how many of us hardcore Calexiters are there that are here in the inner workings, helping to run this thing, trying to make sure it actually happens? There are nowhere near enough. As the head of Calexit, as the guy who started the Calexit Now hashtag, which, love Texas. Texas is using the Texit now. I freaking love it. If you're one of those hardcore people, get the heck involved. Please. We're all in this together. I alone cannot make this happen. Marcus alone cannot make this happen. There's 4 of us here on video in this meeting right now. The 4 of us cannot alone make this happen. 4 of us out of the 40 million? I mean, come on. Is there a way to get a smaller fraction? What we want is to have a decent, sizable chunk of Californians coming together to make this happen. If you are wanting this to happen, you need to get involved, and you need to get involved now. There is no other way to put it. The time is long past, right? I mentioned earlier the point of no return for America is long past. Well, the point of no return is coming up for Calexit. And we can either join in together and push it forward so that it doesn't get called back to go and land back at the airport, or we can let that happen. Just, yeah, it seems like a good idea, but what can I do, really? There's a lot you can do. If you can speak, hell, you don't even need to be able to speak. If you can communicate at all, there is something you can do to help further the cause. We can either help further the cause, get this thing well on its way, get it to where it needs to go. Or we can sit back and continue on with the way that things have gone year in, year out. The detrimentalization of our people, the detrimentalization of our children. Really, is that something that you are willing to sit on your hands for? And I would judge, just personally, as someone who does his utmost in life every day to be the best human being that I possibly can be, not just for myself, but also for others. I judge that anyone who could readily acknowledge that children are being detrimentalized and that there is this way that could lead to the ability to fixing it, because right now we don't even have the ability to fix it. The ability to fix it lies with the people who have their boots on our necks. The people who don't care about the detrimentalization of children. The people who literally kidnapped children and sold them as commodities. Those people are the ones with the ability to either let there be a change or not. Let that one sink in, folks. This is why we have to Calexit. Until we Calexit, we do not have the ability to change these things for the better. We have to just sit there and let America continue to choke us out until we pass out. We have to let America continue to steal children and sell them for money, people. Selling children for money. Does that not disgust you? Do you not get up in arms when you hear about this? Do you not want to just throw something at a wall out of frustration or something? I mean, I am absolutely livid, and I'm just talking about it. We can either Calexit and get ourselves the ability to start working for the changes that are needed, or we can sit by and be horrible human beings and be totally okay with children being kidnapped and sold for money. Take your pick. We all get at life is a series of choices. We all get the choice in our own lives. I really hope each and every one of us will make the right decision. Make the decision based on sanity, reason, care, compassion. Don't make your decision based on it's too hard. What can I really do? You come reach out to Marcus or myself, we will find a place for you. We will figure out what skills you've got and where they can be best put to use, and we will get you rocking and rolling, folks.
Absolutely.
So get involved. Marcus, if you could put your email and my Calexit related email up there on the banner for everyone, if you could.
Sure. I am going to have to take off in a second for 20 minutes. You can keep going.
Well, I'm going to take off as well. I just wanted to make sure everyone has a way to get in contact. Because it doesn't really do any good telling people to come and reach out if we don't also provide.
One second.
And while we're doing this, I'm just going to take a quick look at all these comments and...
There's your email.
Nice. Yes. That one right there is mine, folks. If you want to reach out to me, that's how. Send me an email. Let me know who you are and that this is related to Calexit. We will go from there.
Okay. Thank you all for being here.
Oh, are you not putting yours up too?
Sure.
It's all good.
Right.
I know you got to go. I know you got to go. It's fine,
Sorry.
Marcus.
I got to be gone in about 45 seconds. So let me post this up. Here you go.
Okay.
1 second. There it is. Marcus.ruiz.evans. You can also email Jason Wright directly at JSRVS86. That's JSRVS86. JSRVS86 at gmail.com. That'll put you in the direct line to Jason Wright, CEO of Yes California Calexit.
Right on. So with that, I will close this meeting with some some words that were once shared to me that I love sharing back with everyone as a reminder of who we are as Californians, Californios. That is, viva todos Californios, si se puede.
Si se puede. I love that. Okay, guys, we'll see you soon. Stay tuned for more information. Watch for midterms. It's going to be eventful, and we will have a lot to say about it here at Yes California. All right, Jason, we're going to have a lot of commentary on midterms after it's done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, watch this flaming trash heap very closely. Don't get too close, but definitely stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Pull out the weenies and the marshmallows and the chocolate bars and graham crackers. We're gonna have some fun with this because we told y'all so. For the last several years, we have been calling it. It continues. America continues to prove us 100% correct. So when we at Calexit say, get ready for a giant weenie roast, maybe just go ahead and get ready for the giant weenie roast.
Yeah. Okay. Get ready, because it's going to pop off.